The Greenland question, the conflict that could redefine NATO itself. Wars in the modern world do not always begin with gunfire. They begin with strategic silence, diplomatic pressure, and quiet military movements that only satellites notice. Greenland represents one of those silent flashpoints, a place where no shots have been fired. Yet every major power is preparing for consequences. For decades, Greenland was treated as a frozen backwater, important only to scientists and local communities. Today, it stands at the center of Arctic geopolitics, missile defense planning, and alliance tension. What is unfolding is not a traditional war, but a strategic confrontation that could test the foundations of NATO itself. This is not a story of invasion fleets or marching armies. It is a story of influence, leverage, geography, and fear. And it is a story the world is not paying enough attention to. Why Greenland matters more than ever. Greenland's importance is rooted in its geography. The island sits directly between North America and Europe, making it a critical link in transatlantic defense and communication. In modern warfare, geography determines reaction time, and Greenland offers something priceless. Early warning. Any intercontinental ballistic missile launched from Eurasia toward North America would likely pass through Arctic airspace. Greenland's location allows radar systems to detect such launches within seconds. Those seconds can mean the difference between interception and catastrophe. Beyond missiles, Greenland controls access to the Arctic Ocean. As climate change melts polar ice, new shipping lanes are opening, shortening global trade routes and exposing untapped resources. Whoever dominates the Arctic will shape global trade and military movement for decades. The Pacific Space Base reality at the heart of Greenland's military relevance is the Pacific Space Base, formerly known as Thule Air Base. Operated by the United States, this base is a cornerstone of America's missile warning and space surveillance systems. It tracks satellites, monitors missile launches, and supports global command operations. This base does not exist for regional defense alone. It is integrated into the wider U.S. nuclear deterrence network. Without Greenland, the United States would lose a critical layer of its early warning shield. For NATO, Pacific represents collective security in action, but it also represents dependency. Many European NATO members rely on U.S. infrastructure and intelligence provided through Greenland, giving Washington enormous leverage within the alliance. Greenland's political status. Greenland is not an independent country. It is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, which is a founding member of NATO. This legal reality makes any aggressive action toward Greenland extremely dangerous from an alliance perspective. An attack on Greenland would legally constitute an attack on Denmark. Under NATO's Article 5, this would obligate collective defense. In simple terms, a military move against Greenland by any NATO member would mean war within the alliance. This is why Greenland is so sensitive. It is not just a strategic asset, it is a legal minefield. Any misstep risks unraveling decades of alliance trust. The origins of tension. The modern tension surrounding Greenland intensified when U.S. political leadership openly expressed interest in increasing American control over the island. While framed as economic or strategic proposals, these statements alarmed European allies and Greenland's own leadership. Greenland's government responded firmly, emphasizing self-determination and rejecting any notion of forced transfer of control. Denmark echoed this position, making clear that Greenland's future would not be decided by external pressure. What followed was not escalation through force, but through diplomacy and signaling. NATO's internal strain. NATO is often portrayed as a unified bloc, but in reality it is a coalition of nations with differing priorities. Greenland exposed these differences. While all members agree on Arctic security, they do not agree on how power within the alliance should be exercised. European members worry about precedent. If a powerful ally can pressure smaller members over territory, what does that mean for collective trust? The United States, meanwhile, views Greenland primarily through the lens of global competition. The Arctic militarization. Greenland cannot be separated from the wider Arctic picture. Russia has dramatically expanded its Arctic military presence, reopening Cold War air bases and deploying advanced missile systems along its northern coast. China, though not an Arctic nation, has declared itself a near-Arctic power and invested heavily in polar research and infrastructure. These moves have forced NATO to respond. Arctic exercises have increased in scale and frequency. Troop rotations, naval patrols, and air surveillance have become routine. Greenland sits at the center of this buildup. It is the most strategically located NATO territory in the Arctic, making it both a shield and a target. On-ground realities in Greenland. Despite the global attention, daily life in Greenland remains quiet. The population is small, spread across remote communities that rely on fishing, hunting, and limited industry. For many Greenlanders, great power politics feel distant and imposed. Greenland's leadership has repeatedly emphasized that security decisions must involve local voices, not just foreign capitals. This local perspective is often missing from strategic debates. Greenland is not just a chess square. It is home to people whose lives are directly affected by these decisions. The possibility of conflict, the idea of an outright war between the USA and NATO over Greenland, sounds absurd at first. A direct military clash remains highly unlikely. The costs would be catastrophic politically, economically, and militarily. Instead, the more realistic danger lies in escalation through coercion, economic pressure, or unilateral actions that test alliance boundaries. This kind of conflict would not look like war in movies. Legal and diplomatic barriers. International law strongly favors Greenland's current status. Any attempt to change sovereignty without consent would violate the UN Charter and multiple treaties. This legal framework acts as a powerful deterrent against force. Behind closed doors, intense negotiations continue to balance security concerns with alliance unity. Economic dimensions. Greenland's resources add another layer to the conflict. The island is believed to hold significant reserves of rare earth minerals, critical for modern technology and military systems. The United States wants secure supply chains independent of China. Europe wants economic stability and environmental protection. Greenland wants development on its own terms. These competing interests create friction. Economic pressure can be as powerful as military force, and it is already shaping negotiations. The nuclear shadow. Any discussion of US and NATO conflict must acknowledge nuclear reality. Nuclear deterrence does not just prevent wars between enemies. It also restrains allies from crossing red lines. This is why restraint, not aggression, defines current behavior. Media and perception. Public perception plays a crucial role. Headlines about invasion or takeover can inflame tensions even when no such plans exist. Media narratives influence political pressure and public opinion. Miscommunication or exaggeration can create crises where none were intended. What history teaches. History is full of conflicts sparked by strategic territories. From the Suez Canal to the Falklands, geography has repeatedly triggered wars between unlikely opponents. Greenland shares similarities with these cases, but also key differences. Unlike past conflicts, Greenland is embedded in a dense network of alliances and laws designed to prevent war. The most likely future, the most probable outcome, is not war, but prolonged tension. Greenland will remain heavily militarized in strategic terms, while diplomacy works to manage rivalry. NATO will reinforce unity while quietly addressing internal strain. Greenland will push for greater autonomy in security decisions. This uneasy balance may last decades. The final truth? Greenland is not the site of an inevitable war, but it is a test of the modern world order. The real danger is not invasion, but erosion. Erosion of trust, norms, and restraint. Greenland reminds us that the future of war is not always loud.